Thanks everybody for joining tonight for our what is it? It's for in February. So our February Essex County Field Naturalist the Essex County Field Naturalist Club members meeting for February 2022. Thanks for joining us tonight live on Zoom. Tonight's presentation will be recorded, so if you wouldn't mind just keeping your microphones muted when you're not speaking, just so we can keep the background noise to a minimum. Like I said, tonight's presentation will be recorded and available on our YouTube channel, and hopefully in a close future date. So for anybody that can't make it tonight, we'll have that recording up. So I'm just going to turn everything over now to Karen, our club president, for a quick introduction here for tonight's special guest presenter.
Thank you, Corey. Welcome, everybody. So it's my pleasure to introduce Ian Nesbitt tonight as our speaker, here to talk about his work with the Little River Enhancement Group. So Ian immigrated from England and spent his life in the Windsor region as a teacher, and really made an incredible impact, and has a wonderful story to tell us tonight about his work in the Little River. I also want to add that, in case you're not aware, the Little River Enhancement Group has recently become a committee of the Field Naturalist Club. And it's pretty exciting to learn about what went on in the river over the years, and you know, maybe do some more work in the future. So with that, I'll pass it over to Ian, and thanks again for joining us. Looking forward to hearing all about this.
Thank you, Karen. I have to give a shout out to Claire Sanders, who helped me put this together. And the quote here, this is a quote that inspired us as a group. We are a small group for sure, and but we were committed. And storytelling, I'm glad you mentioned that. Storytelling is raising awareness, and I do have stories to share tonight. There's quite a few, as a matter of fact, but I'll try and keep them all organized. What we have here, I took these photos. We got a package. Concord School got a package from the Canadian Wildlife Federation. It was called Habitat 2000. And what they wanted you to do is, as a school, do a community project for the benefit of wildlife. And so one of the students in my class, her dad worked for the Ministry of the Environment. So I thought, who else? But his name was Al Stevens, and he has been a member right from the beginning. And he said, Ian, go out to Little River. And so I did. And the photo on the right, it's very close to the pollution control plant, the Little River Pollution Control Plant. And other than having the water have a green color because it's pretty stagnant, I looked at this and took the photo. And while I was doing that, a hawk glided down the river. And I thought to myself, what's wrong with this place? It's fantastic. So the other slide will come into the presentation later on. But what this slide is, the Canadian Tire store in Tecumseh Road, it's behind it. And it starts at Tecumseh Road and goes around to Lozon Road. It's where I'm going to tell you about the shopping cart story. So I went home and I phoned Al and I said, there's nothing wrong with Little River. Oh, you looked at the wrong place. Oh, well, give me better directions then. And so I got better directions. And this is what I found. And I thought, oh my goodness. So I took photos of this, and it's the section, if you go to the end of Little River Road, they've got it all, it's so different than when I went down in April 1989. It's at the end of the road, you would walk out into the field, and this would be, there's a bridge over the river, and on the left-hand side, this is what I saw. And I got a closer look at what's there. I didn't like the drum being there. Well, actually, I didn't like any of it being there, but one of the things that happened while I was there is a green heron landed on the tire, and it looked kind of a sad image. You're looking at this ugliness, and yet this green heron uses the tire to fish for food, his food. I didn't quite, you know, from the hot gliding down the river, this is a mess. So these two before pictures, I've kept, I had them made bigger for our display board, and it doesn't, it really is a mess, or was a mess. And so we had our project, and I'm on my way out. This kid came by on the bike, and I said, "Hey, what do you think of this park?" He said, "It's called Schitt's Creek." Oh, wow. Now I know I had a project to go to. So I got the school involved. I had a very supportive principal and staff. So the beginning team was my staff, the principal, of course, and the staff. And then, of course, we got the kids involved. But before you can get those involved, you got to get the parents involved. And they are really key to the whole thing when we started. This is our first Saturday volunteer day. We made the mistake of sitting on what we pulled out of the river. The one before, I put the garbage first. This time, we sat in front of what we pulled out and took the photo, but that was all right. We don't mind. Al Stevens is the guy on the left-hand side with a white hat on. So 2 years later and 5 cleanups, everything's gone. And this is again April, so the water level is there, and we were successful. We had now before and after pictures, and that helped because anyone looking at them sees that we were successful and say, "Hey, you really did a good job." Yeah, thank you. Now this helped out when I went to get money from fundraising groups, you know, people who provided funding. They want to see results. They want to see what you did. So these are the things, some of the things that we pulled out of the river. Boots, a lot of clothes. I don't know why there were so many clothes, but there was a lot of clothes in there. Bed springs. There are the tires and metal, a lot of metal stuff. And you'll notice the age of the kids. They're pretty. I got kids from even the primary grades to come out with their parents and help out. They thought this was wonderful. I should have brought up the fact that when you mix kids with water and mud, you know it's all going to get together. Speak of the devil. This is a classic photograph. And you wouldn't, you know, it's a moment in time, a moment where that young lad I got the big grin on his face, and the other one's pulling the tire out of the, or it's not a river anymore. This is the old channel of Little River. It's an oxbow, and it's cut off from the main, well, they channelized it. If you go from the CNR tracks to the mouth of Little River, you could shoot a cannon down it. So they really channelized it. The old river had berms on both sides, so they had dredged that out at one time, but that wasn't good enough. So because of the flood threats in Riverside, East Windsor, they had to get the water away as fast as possible. And the way to do that is to make it straight as an arrow and pump water up into it and get it out of there. Well, there were years that the oxbow dried up because there's no source of water. In my little tours of the oxbow, I found a glass dump at the south end, which would have been the place where the water would have come in. But they filled the valley, the Little River Valley, with glass bottles of every combination and color you can imagine. All the old medicine bottles. Eventually, they had people who go in there and dig through them, and the city didn't like that. So they put a clay top on top of it and seeded it, and it's still there, but nobody knows about it. So this classic photo we used several times. Like I said before, this now, you see it's full of water this time. It probably was a September, October cleanup, end of the year, but probably a rainy year. If it wasn't for parents diving in the way I did, you wouldn't have the success story. I wouldn't have the children out there and the staff. So I was really thankful for the parents. And that's a drum, and it's harder to dig out stuff, tires in the drum when there's no water in it. The water makes it easier, of course, to dig stuff up and get it out. Oh yes, that's a pool filter. Had a few of those. An old iron wheel from years gone by. And that's Dan, the caretaker from our school, hauling out a water heater with our new wheelbarrows that we bought with our funding. Computer monitors and keyboards, they didn't have e-waste recycling at this point in time, and everything went to the dump. And so that's why all this stuff was there. TVs also. When I think back, I just look at there was no place to go and recycle this stuff, so it went to the dump. This is Pearl Brad. She's an original member of the Little River Enhancement Group and a very helpful person. She taught at Riverside Secondary School, so that was my connection there. And she's still involved, and we're actually right now we're meeting with the Detroit River Canadian Cleanup Group. We decided that once we all retired, we're a little gray-haired and long in the tooth. We didn't have the meetings, so we decided to go to the DRCC meetings, and we kept up with the Little River and the Detroit River that way. Oh yes, we have a sign stories. This is sign number 2. What about number 1? Well, the principal had a neighbor who painted signs, and we got a sign done very nicely, and the city put it up. And it was erected at, well, you go to McHugh Street, there's a bridge over the McHugh Street, the Windsor, the WFCU Center is just off to the corner. Now you have to go north of McHugh Street, and there's a pond there. Right of the pond was the first place that we planted in May 1990. And we erected the sign, and I did have a picture of it, but it's gotten lost over 30 years. It grew legs, obviously. It ended up in the river, and I think they used it as a raft because the city employees found it down at the mouth of Little River where the boats dock. And so that sign that was done. It got too messed up. This sign was provided by the funding from the Canadian Wildlife Federation. This is a deep freezer, and it's hard to get out. So I have to think about this, but we did buy ropes, and I got metal hooks to put on, so we kind of wrapped it around. It didn't quite work though, because it wasn't hooked up right, so I unhooked it and then hooked it up, and I got the 20 mule team to pull it out and drag it over to where we collected the garbage so the city could pick it up, and I guess it would go to another dump, to be honest with you, at the time. Oh yes, the shopping cart story. This one, this was always a pain. The left-hand slide that I showed you at the beginning, I told you was behind the Canadian Tire store. We've cleaned that site up 15 times in the past. And basically, we were hauling shopping carts out of the river, as well as a lot of litter, odds and ends, but the shopping cart was the real big thing here. It was very frustrating. But the people, you'll notice the vegetation wrapped up around the shopping carts. And that was an issue, because we tried to take these shopping carts back to the owners, the store, and they would take a look at this and they'd say, forget it, we don't want those. Okay, you don't want them. We got the Canadian Auto Workers Local 200, they had a trailer, and they took the carts back. That was plan A, to take the carts back to the owners, but they didn't want them at the time. So we have to come up with plan B. And that was the metal recycler on EC Road was more than happy to take them. And so the CAW volunteers would take them to the recycle center. They would weigh them, and we'd make a little bit of money. But that money we gave to the Computers for Kids program that the CAW was running anyway. So they benefited from the money until we didn't get any notification of it, but the stores must have gotten together and they told the recycle guy, don't do that anymore. They must have hired, I noticed there was a fellow that used to go around the neighborhood, and he had to be around probably every day at a certain time, because people who did the shopping in the grocery stores would take the cart home and they would leave it at their house. So he would go around and pick them up. But that didn't work either, because unbelievable. We had one cleanup. We took 68 carts out of the river. And I'm still amazed. I'll tell you what they were doing with them. The people who live in Forest Glade wanted a shortcut. And I'm sure it was the kids first. They went over to the river, and of course they had all these shopping carts. So a bunch of them got together, brought them over, and they made a bridge of shopping carts that they could walk over and go to the stores on Tecumseh Road. And that's why we cleaned out the carts every year. We went back for years, and we got frustrated. So we used to bring this up. We let it out that this is what's happening. We need a solution. Well, that took about 27 years. They built a bridge now over the river at this location. And we had a great argument, of course. And I haven't been by to see it yet, but I will see it soon, because we're going to clean up this site. I believe on the 9th of April, between 10 and 12. Gina and Jacqueline, I believe, are organizing it. And of course, they asked me to kind of get involved in this. So I said, sure, I'll go there. I know it so well. And there's always stuff to clean up, unfortunately. Anyway, that's the shopping cart story. Oh, now we have the kids' pool story. You can see there's water in the oxbow. There are still tires, so we're cleaning it up. But this took my interest. I thought, what or why are they even here? Well, when I saw the first one, that wasn't a problem. But then there was a second one. And as you can tell, this is closer to November. And that blue one is sitting in the background in a pile of junk. And this second pile of junk, you can see a really old green kids pool. And then there's this one. And this slide points out that a lot of house renovations, they didn't take it to the collection center. They just took it to the dump. And they backed up their truck and unloaded it. And I guess they expected somebody else to take care of it, which we did, of course. But there is a story behind this kids pool. The older brothers and sisters would take the pool to what they call Hope Hill now. We used to call it Toboggan Hill. It's at the end of Little River Road. It's still there, of course. And what it really is a garbage dump or sanitary landfill site. The older kids would sit in this pool and slide down the hill in the wintertime. And I thought, wow, what a great thing that would be. It would be fun. And I agree with that, no problem. But these kids just never figured out that they should take it home and keep it for the next time. No, they just said, somebody get a pool, and they probably kept bringing the pools to have the fun. And I can appreciate how much fun that would be. Another water tank. I think this is Twin Oaks. I did have notes, but I'm not following them too well. Twin Oaks. Yeah. This is the part of Little River that I better check just a minute. Oh yeah, that's it. This is that was a water tank. It's Twin Oaks Golf Course. I used to golf there with my dad. And obviously construction, it was available. There was a road you could drive down, and at the end of the road, you just dumped. And they did that. But while I was there, for the first time in my life, I saw a snake ball. And I was mesmerized. I mean, it was writhing and moving. And I found out that it's probably a couple of dozen male snakes and maybe a couple of females. And they're just having a party and a mating party. And it's the springtime. And I thought, wow, I went closer because I just could not believe the movement. And it was hypnotic, it was. First time I'd ever seen one, and I've never forgotten it, and I haven't seen one since. So there it goes. This is 1990. The first Earth Day was 1970. And for some reason it fizzled out. And for another reason, somebody picked it up and said, we should start Earth Day all over again. And that was one of the committees that I joined, was the Earth Day committee. And we planned cleanups at different parts of the city. Well, I picked the old channel again because it always needed cleaning up. But I had a great partner, Browning Ferris Industries. They provided t-shirts for everybody, pizza, pop, and 2 containers that I will show you. And they provided a bandstand. They brought it and it rolled it off the truck. And one of the owners of BFI, his son, had a band. So they came and they played in the band. So we had music too. It was really a great celebration for the rejuvenation of Earth Day. These are the roll-off containers that I thought one would be enough. It wasn't. We filled it like in an hour. So no problem. He got on the cell phone and they had another one there in no time. And so that was a Saturday cleanup and we filled it. We worked till about noon and everybody pretty well gets tired because you're pulling and lifting and you're walking all over the river, the old Oxbow. And we packed up and left and I thought I'll go check to see if everything's okay Sunday afternoon. I could not believe what was there. The locals had taken and cleaned up their yards. These bins were overloaded. They were above the top. And one guy even had put a metal boat in another one and it was sticking way up. I imagine it had holes in it or he wouldn't have thrown it in the bin. But I'm sure the guys who picked up these roll-offs, they would have to tie the load down to take it away. It was, I've learned since that if you're going to have these things drop in a cleanup site, it would be wise to pick it up the same day, but sometimes it's a Sunday and nobody's working. So instead they get filled up from the locals. Well, it's better in there than I suppose in the river. You can look at it that way. So we started to get a bit of a reputation of, this is where the media comes in. We got coverage by newspapers. We had the CBC and I think the CBT was around, CTV was around. We had a couple of them come in and we made the news. Gee, one year we made the CBC national news. That was a big thing. Anyway, this was the beginning. And there's a story behind this too. This is our logo, Little Reggie the Dragonfly. And the reason behind this logo is when we first started off, we used to do watershed tours. And one of the reasons why is that we could see the projects that we were working on. And the other half of it is we're looking for locations and sites to plant trees or clean up. And so one of the sites which Mark Schaefer has adopted was Westin Park. And Westin Park had a diagonal existing open drainage ditch. And the time we were there, we went and checked out the water and the quality and all that, and we were swarmed by dragonflies. They were female, they were laying their eggs in the water, and you couldn't move sideways without a dozen of them flying around you. It was just a special moment in time. We never forgot that. And when we went to brainstorm the name of the group, we got that ironed out. And then we needed a logo of an animal. We normally environmental groups pick animals for logos. So we picked the dragonfly and called him Little Reggie. And Westin Park is very dear to our hearts, the small group that go around on the watershed tours. So that's the story behind our logo. Oh, this is a biggie. My wife and I went shopping in the USA and we went to a Target store. And of course, I walked around with my wife for some time and then I came across this pamphlet, Kids for Saving Earth, and it was sponsored by Target. And I looked through it, I read through it, and it was an application form for a contest. And if you won this contest, there were going to be 30 winners. And if you won it, you got to go to the United Nations in New York City. I thought, wow, we should give this a try. It's American, but maybe they'll take us. So I went back and with my class, I said, I told them all about it and I read the instructions and what we're to do. And basically they had to write something down in a paragraph of what we did and what we're doing and what you see as the future. And artwork, you could present artwork to this group, and then they would look at the artwork too, and then they would weigh it up. So I got, the girls did the writing, and the young man did a piece of artwork that intrigued me, but it was rough. So Susan Thompson, she was the graphic artist at the Windsor Star, who developed our logo, by the way. I forgot to mention that. I called her up again and I said, I need you to fix this up in his best way possible. He scribbled it out and wrote it out, but the idea was perfect. You'll see it later on, but it's a small picture. But basically, it was green generation, 2 big G's, and he had roots up the bottom and a tree up the top and flowers around, but it was a mess. So Susan fixed it up for us. And so I said, artwork by, I think his name was Alec, and what did I say? I said something about Susan. I was honest and I said it wasn't his artwork, but the concept was his. And so we handed it in and we won. We were one of 30 schools in North America. They flew us to New York City. We stayed in a nice hotel for 2 nights, and they had all kinds of tours for us to do. And we got to walk around New York City. And the thing I remembered, wow, that's one of the things, is if you left your car out overnight in New York City, you are going to have a custom paint job the next morning. They just had the most brilliant colors and artwork on cars that were left overnight. Anyway, this is part of the award that we won. It was the Champion Defenders of the Planet. And it's a translucent globe, and 30 children would wear a battery pack on a belt around them, and it would power the light inside. And they practiced coming into the main hall of the United Nations. Well, we sat there and we were looking, but they turned all the lights out, and what we saw were 15 globes on each side walking in totally. I don't know how they did it without the kids running into each other, but they trained them, and they came in and collected in the front, and it was just absolutely fantastic. John Denver sung a song for us, and it was, well, the kids were amazing, but they were tired. And I can remember coming home, it was 10 o'clock at night and we were dead beat. The kids were sleeping in the car. And the Windsor Star called me up. We need to do an interview. Well, can you wait till tomorrow? No, it's got to be done tonight. So it's so it can be printed for tomorrow. Oh man. So I'm telling you, I had to wake them up, and they were drowsy, but they wore their hats that they bought, and it really did go over well. And we were in the newspaper, and of course that was a big thing. This is really a big thing. It's probably our biggest award, and it was a lot of fun. Okay, back to reality. This was we're in Twin Oaks now, back there, and I would imagine it's teenagers. They set up the carpet. They had couches, chairs, tables, fire pits. It was a regular party, and they were having fun doing that until we came along. We tore it all apart. They probably went there the next weekend, and it was all gone. Oh, this was fun. This was folded up, and the kids wanted to unfold it. And when they did, oh, this was a mouse house. You can imagine. They were mice flying left, right, and center. The kids were hooting and hollering. They thought it was just fantastic. That was their lesson in insulation in winter, and mice would love this sort of thing. Most of them ran away. In fact, all of them did. They never caught one. They're just too fast. I guess they had to do the laundry while they were out partying on the weekend. I am never, well, after about 2 years, 3, I'm not surprised at what we picked up and cleaned up. There's asphalt shingles in the background. Okay, so on one of our watershed tours, we saw this drain in this woodlot, and we thought, oh, wow, is this ever neat? Well, it was for sale. And I can't remember who did it, but somebody phoned the real estate agent and inquired. And that's all that was left after they inquired. As soon as we asked the landowner, this is your Windsor clear cut. The drain's no longer there. I believe the post office, it's on the west side of Walker Road. And I think the post office and a plaza there with restaurants are in it now. So this has been covered up, and the drains have all been laid for that big box Walker Road section. An unfortunate story, but it's a lesson learned. It's 1992. The city of Windsor is 100 years old. The school put in, oh no, on Little Reggie by then, yeah, Little Reggie put in to plant 100 trees along the Little River. And they said, that's a great thing. We'll let you do that. There were 2 things that had to be done. They had to do a visit for the missus. That's his Governor General Ramon Natishan, and his wife came to visit for the day, May 12th, I believe. And she visited the Hospice of Windsor, and he came and planted a tree in the Centennial Forest. You'll see the monuments and the tree along the Untitled Trail extension from Sandpoint Park. And we had 100 trees tied up with ribbons, green ribbons. The parents did that so that everybody knew we did plant 100 trees. And he planted a chinquapin oak, and they got it out of oak wood. They shoveled it out and they brought it, and I thought, and the forester thought, this thing's never going to make it. It came out of a swamp condition, and it was planted on kind of like a hill. It survived amazingly. It's amazing what native plants can do. But this was another highlight for us too. This is Hope Hill. It's the west side of the hill at the end of Little River Road. It's the garbage dump, and you can tell the vegetation has covered it. And we worked on nature trails. And so we got donated wood chips, and we had the kids with, oh, we bought a whole bunch of shovels. We had at least 30 long handled and 30 D-handled for the kids. And this is Mcauliffe Park. And I had a teacher from Riverside. His wife worked as a teacher at Walkerville, and they had the special ed class. And she called me up and said, we would love to come and do work with you. And I thought, okay, well, we can do that. It went so well. The helpers came along with the kids, and they went around and they helped them do the wood chips. And we actually went and planted trees with them one year too. And I took the class to Walkerville, and we had a soccer game. What a hoot that was. I told the boys and girls, you have to let them score. Okay, and then you can score. And of course, when they scored, the kids, they went crazy. They were screaming and yelling. And then I said to my kids, okay, now you can go score a goal. And of course they did it in no time. So they have to let the special kids get a goal again. And everybody loved it. We played baseball too. It was a great experience for the kids in my room and myself. This wood chip trail at Mcauliffe Park, it was turned into a gravel one, and then they eventually asphalted it. So yeah, we're quite happy about that. Oh yes, sign. Oh, which sign is it? 3, I think. Sign number 3. Yeah, I think it is. No, 2, no. Oh, well, it doesn't matter anyway. I just want you to know that it's a beautiful sign. It was there for the longest time, but it's this would have been 93. It's not there anymore. These kids would be, oh my goodness, they'd be 40 years old, 35, 40 years old now. They had fun. And of course, 2 of them just have to have a wheelbarrow to sit in. Westin Park, this is the place where we came up with the dragonfly as our logo. The drainage ditch was filled in. And so because Sandwich South had their 100th anniversary, we decided to plant 100 trees here with permission from the township. And we put a sign up here that Mark and I had to straighten out a couple of times. This sign's gone too. One year, can't remember. We were invited by the University of Windsor. They were having an environmental conference, and they asked me and the school to bring the display board and talk about our project. And I learned a long time ago that politicians and people listen to kids more than they listen to a guy like me, a grown-up, because the kids, they're special. They come in and I trained them to make the presentation. And then I had the ones that were at the display board. They knew every answer to every conceivable question. We drilled them to, and we of course we got a lunch, and everybody was just oohing and on over them. They were very proud of this. The kids really loved doing it. So we started accumulating awards. You can see the piece of artwork that the Sue Thompson made fixed up. It's green generation, the 2 G's, the sun, a tree growing at the top and roots at the bottom and flowers around it. I had 5 copies made and I used them all. And I don't know why I didn't save one for myself, but they were really beautiful copies. I spent more money on quality and the ink that they used. And the wall, we kind of ran out of space. So we had these awards and we needed another wall. So there was a hallway at Concord School it's kind of a funny, you walked in the side door, there's a hallway and there's classrooms and then the gym was down, but this was a separate hallway. So I talked one of the artistic parents into designing the hallway as a green hallway or earth hallway, and she did a fantastic job, and the kids painted it all over. And then we started hanging awards in that hallway. Oops, I can't let that go. I don't know how many of you remember the movie, oh gosh, it's Raiders of the Lost Ark. And at the end of the movie, the Ark is being taken into a warehouse the size of Costco. And there's nothing but other boxes, wooden crates all over. So you knew this box was going to get lost in there. And this is what's happened to all our awards. They closed the school. I left in '04 and they built David Suzuki School, and the architect and the parents at the school said all the awards would go down there and that would be the history. Of course, it was David Suzuki, so the environment would be big. It never happened. So all the awards were placed in boxes, and they're now in the archive dungeon at head office, and never to be seen again, I'm sure. They just don't have any value to anybody, but what are you gonna do? I don't have enough walls in my house to put these things, so I don't think my wife would allow it anyway. TV Ontario wanted to do a show on our project. And it was the Green Earth Club. And it was a half-hour show. And so they were to come down for the entire day. And we were at their disposal. We went out to Little River and I think we did some play acting. It was like, what are you going to do? Well, we're going to do this, and we pulled a tire out, or we picked up this and that. It all was laid out beforehand, and they had to take multiple retakes. And the worst one was at the end of the day. We had 2 classes, I believe, out in the front of the school. The sun was blazing down. Everybody was kind of thrilled to sing the song once. Wally, the photographer on the right, very interesting person, he could take a child's face singing and maybe the next one, and that's all he could do in a song. So he said, sing it over. And then he would go, he'd look at who was singing, and he'd go and take their picture and get about 10 seconds of it. And then he'd look at another one, the song was over. Sing it again. I'm telling you, 10 to 12 times. The kids at the end of it, I think no one in that class will ever be a movie star. They couldn't do the retakes. It just drove them nuts. They were sweating and hot, and they didn't want to do it. But he did find kids who were happy and smiling and singing. We had an article in Canadian Geographic, and of course, the principal was really big on cutting it out and getting it framed and hanging it up. So we've got dozens of these.
He is doing a good job.
The Green Generation. This is Maclean's magazine.
Lots of pictures, stories.
Now, don't beat me up over this, but the Shell Environmental Fund provided $5,000 to us, and we did purchase a trailer for all the equipment we accumulated, and they helped us out. But this was a advertisement for them, so we ended up on the back of every magazine going. I could only put so much in, but it did get the word out that people knew what we were doing. We went out in the wintertime too, to finish the nature trails at Mcauliffe Woods. Oh yes, a continuation of our sign. Windsor KOA from the year 1996 to 2000, might have been 6 years. We were at this campground. The owner allowed us to plant all kinds of trees around their ponds and through the woodlot. They had a woodlot, and we could go in there and infill. He had like a nature trail around it, and we would go along this nature trail and plant trees. And IRCA, the Conservation Authority, they had a plantation planted right beside the entrance. It started, and so it was November, and I was teaching the kids about Remembrance Day and about World War I. And we got into this field, and one of the kids, we were covered in mud and we were getting stuck trying to plant these trees. And one kid came up to me and said, "So, sir, I can see why that was a problem in the war. They were all stuck in this mud." And I said, "Yeah, that's right." So this sign, by the way, is gone too. IRCA contacted Farmer McCarthy, and he agreed to put a buffer strip along the east side of the drain because they need one side of the drain to clean it out. So we picked, I guess, or the farmer picked the west side. And along with that, they get to put a sign up, and we worked with St. Mary's School, and we planted in a straight line right down the drain 100 ash trees. And you know what happened to them. The next year we planted about 150 shrubs in between the trees. And then, of course, I believe it was the year 2000, the Emerald Ash Board came in and took care of those 100 ash trees. It was done. So the shrubs were still there, and Mother Nature has a way of introducing different kinds of trees. This sign disappeared too, along with the buffer strip. The son of the farmer, and they have every right to do this, he just plowed it under and planted more crops right to the ditch. So I'm no longer too keen on working with private landowners. I would rather work with the public parks, or at least with, we've worked with a couple of farmers. The trees are still there. So I'm not saying the private landowners are going to do what they want anyway, but they do agree to it. But I think there's an end limit. I think after 20 years, they can go back to doing what they want. This sign disappeared. Oh, there's our trailer. And every time I could, I always had kids in pictures because it makes, when I went to apply for funding, it makes it a lot easier because they see little kids in it. Oh yeah, this is great. This was our shed on wheels. It stored 12 wheelbarrows, 30, maybe 60 shovels. We had hip waders by now, and lots of ropes with metal hooks. Whoops. That happens to be the third vehicle that I beat up, pulling the trailer or filling with equipment. And this died too, and I went and bought a van and I beat it up too. So I ended up buying a truck. I'm still trying to beat it up, but it's lasted a long time. I guess I'm the kind of guy that just beats up vehicles. Pulling this stuff around didn't help, but that gives you an idea. We had that trailer filled with equipment. This is Derwent Park. It's by the Essex engine plant, would be kitty corner to it. It's by EC Row, Lozon Parkway, Cloverleaf. The park is in the northeast corner. And there's a bridge over the river's east of it. And we come to Shaughnessy Cone Woods. And this is the place we decided to put our 10th anniversary of the first cleanup crusade. And it lasted up until a few months ago. Mark Shaver went out and found out that somebody had taken a rock and had broken this slate in two, and one part was missing. So we can't free it up right now. It's frozen to the ground, but the plan is for us to go out, lift it up, put it in the back of the truck, and take it to our monument place that we use and get it repaired. Stuff like that happens, but we're going to put it in a place that's a little more open and a lot more busy with people. It's kind of isolated where that is. Twin Oaks River Valley. Tom Henderson's the chair of the Detroit River Canadian Cleanup, and that's our connection. Tom has been helping our group for years and years. He was a parent at Concord School. And of course, I was always the chair. Nobody wanted, whenever we had the elections, everybody just voted, no, we don't, you take it. Okay, fine. And Claire Sanders is the person that helped me with this presentation. We use this part of the slide presentation to convince the city of Windsor to name the park Dragonfly Park. This is the Twin Oaks that I talked about. It is the site of one of the best projects we could ever have, and that was restoring the river valley, because it was a mess. It was a golf course, but as you can see, the city bought this and turned it into an industrial park. So we had already worked on the valley, cleaning it up. We cleaned up the entire area that you see here, not just the green belt, but this is what it looked like before. This was the river valley. You can see the erosion and the slumping that went on, and all that dirt goes down the river. And also the golf course owner had dammed the river so that he could water his golf course for free. But if you've ever seen a Little River in the middle of summer, you'll realize it's a trickle and there's not much there. The Field Naturalist Club helped us out. They provided funding. Our logo and your logo is on there, and the city paid for the lion's share of it. But this was the one project that the city could take. This is just an engineering diagram of how they built the river valley. They stepped it up. They have a meandering little river, and then there's the overflow section, and then there's another set of plateaus for overflow, and then it goes up to the level of the ground. It was a redesigned river valley, and of course the engineers think they can solve everything. Well, Mother Nature has a way of humbling us, and sure as shooting, there was erosion taking place when the high water levels, and it washed out an area. They had used a lot of riprap, rocks and stones to prevent that, but Mother Nature found a way to erode it. Oh, 98 to 2006, that's the years that we went. Bill Rozelle was the forester, and he invited us to plant during those times, and we did that. So we fixed it up so it would look more natural than quickly. Meanwhile, boy, could you smell the wild garlic? Whew, it was all over. Some of the grown-ups would take it and they bite it off and eat it. I didn't do that. This was part of the design. The runoff from the parking lots and the roofs of the buildings that were constructed goes into this. It really is a big pool area. It's got the rocks and wire mesh. And the idea is all the antifreeze and oil and stuff that drips from cars and stuff goes in here, and it settles to the bottom. Doesn't get rid of it. It sits there and prevents it from going into the river. So it overgrows. I see there's milkweed on the left. It gets overgrown, and this is the way it was designed and run so that the water coming off the parking lot just didn't go into the river. Most of the time it evaporated. Oh, there's the three amigos, Tom and me and Hillary Payne. You can get a sense of the slope of the valley on the top photograph. and things would drain into it. We took a couple of shots and, oh, look at that, a dragonfly on the lower right. Well, once you fix something up, you kind of want to leave it the way it is. This was a notorious site for not only dumping, but ATVs used to run around all over and motorbikes, but this was 4x4 trucks, and they were having a hoot going out here and ripping up the valley wall, you know, the valley, and they even drove through the river at one point, and they just let the mud fly until we put blockades at the end. People just they just dumped their garbage in front of the cement blocks that the big, you've seen them down the highway in the center median. We had a couple of those, and the vehicles just drove around them. And the only way this has been stopped is because a trucking company built a yard at the end of Munich Court and blocked everything off, and it's all fenced in. So they really can't get around it anymore. No, that's a party fire pit. Actually, that's a Kentucky coffee tree. We planted those in the valley. And there's a bunch of high school kids that are cleaning up the river. Kids, no matter what their age, are always happy being in water or mud. This is why we do what we do. It's for the children and grandchildren to enjoy nature, making that connection. And we need to provide that. We need to plan it. And I'm feeling and I'm sensing it that the planners of today know that all communities, even the inner city ones, need a trail or something where they can go out and do what I did when I was a kid, 7 years old, catching pollywogs and frogs and turtles in the water beside the railroad tracks. We used to skip the fence and go play in the water and get soakers, and we built rafts, and you know, that's good stuff. We would see spiders and look at them real close, black and yellow ones and all kinds. And it was neat. And kids need that, to have that connection. Okay. Oh yeah, the three amigos walking down the trail in Twin Oaks. Oh, the top right picture is of the Riverfront Trail, and that is a good idea of what we've been pushing. The Ganacho Trail was created by the city, and the extension of the Ganacho Trail was it's all very well done, very impressive. And then there's the Chrysler Canada Greenway, and there's a whole bunch of trails out there in the county. And our hope and wish is for the Ganacho Trail to eventually get connected to the Chrysler Canada Greenway, which all the planners in the city and the town of Tecumseh and the county say, yes, it's on the books, it will happen. But like everything else, it takes time. This gives you an idea of the Little River watershed, East Windsor. There are two other watersheds for the Detroit River, which is why we're sitting, well, not anymore. 2 years or 3 years ago, we were sitting at the table. Now we sit at home and Zoom meetings. And it gives you an idea that all the work that we've done at the Little River watershed benefits the Detroit River. Oh, this was our effort to get a nature park created at Twin Oaks. Oh, yes. This is one of my favorite projects. We have been involved on the watershed tour. We stopped, and Stan Taylor with IRCA pointed them out. These are provincially significant wetlands. you can see the rectangular shapes of the woodlots that are on the Windsor Airport property. The new hospital will be right below the red arrow. If you go across County Road 42, that field is where the new hospital is going. And you can see that there are woodlots to the right of it. You can see the old course of Little River from this photograph. And we have forever, we wanted to join these up to create an interior forest. It's the only possible project that we could do to get interior forest habitat. And we thought we had it made in the shade when we did this. The green area, IRCA machine planted, and we had the kids plant on both sides of the Revard Drain, west and east. So where you see the name Revard Drain, we planted trees along the drain both ways. And this green area, it was planted in, I think 2015, 13 or 15. And Phil Roberts, who used to be president of the Field Match Club, was the airport manager. And we got it joined up, and we were all having a great time, and we were thrilled with it. But about the third year that it was growing, IRCA requested to get on the property and check the seedlings to see if they needed some work. And they were not allowed to do that. Instead, they plowed it all under again and returned it back to agricultural field. And the project north of it was going to be quite a project. That's not even going to happen because we can no longer go on the airport property. So the 3 woodlots are saved. It's called Candidate Natural Heritage Site number 39. And I keep letting the mayor and the councilors in the area know that I'm still interested in making it happen where they can get joined up. And I'm waiting patiently. That is the end of my presentation. Thank you, Karen, for asking me. I was a bit apprehensive at the beginning. I got worried about because I didn't have anything. And then I found this presentation, so I was happy. That's why I emailed you back and said, yeah, I can do that. And so this is our updated projects that, I updated it verbally. And that concludes my presentation tonight.
That was amazing. There's just so much great work you've done over the years. I'm just going to say on behalf of the Windsor region, thank you. I mean, the river just wouldn't be the same. That first slide of the tires, like what a situation.
Yes, but it gave us a project.
Yes, it did. Yeah, so that's fantastic. I think we could take some questions if anybody has any or wants to. I
have some.
Yeah. Is that Mark? Go ahead, Mark.
Yeah. Okay. I guess I'm the youngest elder of this group that's still active. And I just wanted to mention that we've been around now for 30 years. So actually it's 31. And Ian had brought up about Westin Park. So it was interesting tonight. I just came from a meeting at the Sandwich South Resource Center, and that's how I got involved. I was working for the Township of Sandwich South, and Ian had come to the council, and I got involved. Anyway, at this meeting, the chair says, "Oh, Mark's going to talk a little bit about the Little River Group." Kind of brought me. I was a little stunned. I didn't know that I'm going to start talking. Well, I brought up about the 30th, and we're celebrating that hopefully at the end of this year at Westin Park. And Ian mentions that you kind of try to get the politicians or you try to get it to help us. And sitting next to me was a counselor that's out in our town of Tecumseh, and her name is Tanya Jobin. And I tell you a little thing that happened. I was starting to talk about the little Reggie, and here's Tanya Jobin. She opens up her phone and she says, I can speak a little bit about little Reggie. And Ian had sent her a breakdown of the Little River Group, and she just took over and talked about little Reggie. And I just wanted to say, this is kind of, we're kind of moving on, but we've got a lot of young people, including your group, Karen, and a lot of other young, and I include this Tanya Jobin, who's been she's really helped us out at Westin. So I just want to let everybody know that this fall, and it's coming. I got an email from Tanya and everything's going ahead, and I'm looking forward to the completion, and we're going to have a celebration at Westin Park. We'll be 31 years, but we're 1 year behind because of COVID. So everybody's going to be invited, and we're going to get it completed. That's all I got. I could talk longer, but that's enough.
Thanks, Mark. So is that going to be a public event that?
Yep. Yes,
is
everybody.
advertised?
Yeah, we plan on having a public event, and like Ian got the star involved. We're still in the planning stages, and we'll invite the press and naturally some of the politicians. I guess Ian probably have a group that he'll want to invite, but he wants to stay in the background, I guess. Is that correct, Ian?
Yeah. You're the leader.
Mhm.
I'm the leader right now, but we have a lot of young people that I'm so happy that are getting involved, and to carry on our, whatever you want to call it, our Little River group, or I guess we're still the Little River Enhancement Group, part of the Essex County Field Naturalists.
Yeah, that's right. And I think this is rather new for the club, right? Like this is a new development. So moving ahead, I think we're certainly interested in what opportunities there are to keep going with the work.
And I'd also like to thank there's Corey. Actually, Ian sent a lot of information to Corey to update the website, and he's got a lot of information to go through, and everything will be brought up to date sooner or later. And I want to thank Corey, and I guess thank Ian for sending all this information. I don't know if Corey's overwhelmed with what he got. There's a lot of information to put on the website.
Yeah, that's a great point, Mark. Yeah, but there's been a lot of great information, a lot of great history, obviously, with tonight's presentation. You can see a lot of it, but coming very soon. I'm almost done working on the webpage. So there's a section on our site where it shows all of our committees and subcommittees and things like that. So Little River will have a much bigger presence within our website coming very soon here. So, or Little Reg, I mean, sorry.
Didn't mean to send you that much. I got
Oh,
on a
no.
roll. I
It
had
needs
no
it.
idea I
There's
had
so
that
much
many
history there.
files.
Yeah, there's so much history and a lot of great content there. It's I think it's going to make a great addition to the website.
Mhm.
Mark brought up a point. I forgot to mention that it's very obvious that we're called the Dragonfly Elders now. I had no other choice because we're not as active as we were, but we're still interested. So instead of being those young people that we can plant in 20 trees, if I plant one tree now, I feel like I've done the job. So any kind of tree planting we did before COVID, if I planted a tree, I took a picture of it and I felt good. But in the younger days, I'd be planting trees upon trees until I wore out. But we're gray haired now. We're slowing down, but we have a lot of knowledge to pass on to you young folks.
Mhm.
Ian, I have a question for you. It's Carl Milani speaking. And could you just draw upon your recollection of things and speak for a couple of minutes on the monies that are in the endowment fund now that are managed through the Windsor Essex Community Foundation?
I'd love to. That was something, I'm so happy that Corey and Karen are the young leaders, because I was wondering what to do with it. Let's go back to 1990 when Jim Scorgie and Heritage Windsor approached us. And this was during the Mike Harris government years, and he wasn't popular with teachers or nurses, but he did have a good idea. We started out, the foundation gave us money to plant trees and buy equipment. I believe the first donation was $900 and we were thrilled. And then Jim approached me about, Ian, what we're gonna do is we're gonna donate $5,000 to you, and then you're gonna donate it back to us so I can get Mike Harris to give us $5,000. Oh, that works out really nicely, except we had no money and we hated to give it up, but you know what? I said, okay, we'll do that. We did that twice. They donated to us, and we donated it all back to them. And that's how it started, that foundation. And yes, it was called, I think it was a little, it escapes me now. I can't remember exactly what it was, but I've changed the name a couple of times. From then on, I would talk with the Little River members, and I would say, you know, we should make a donation. They're giving us money. We should help them, you know, by growing the fund. So we did that. And I believe when we started off, it was $19,000 around there. And then we came into a calm few years, about 3 or 4 years, where I didn't inquire and nobody donated anything, and we were winding down, and it just sat there making money. And then I got fired up again, and I wanted to make sure it would go to a group that will use it for nature, education. And so I always ran this by the group. I said, I'd like to do this. And by that time it had grown. And so the foundation, no fault of theirs. I mean, I'll take, I never inquired either, but they just let the money roll over and get more and more and more. And then when I got serious again and got involved with it, I donated a few times over the years through people passing away, and it was a memorial donation. And then I was trying to, and I'm having a very difficult time doing this. I'm trying to wind down the Little River group, and nobody wants to do that. They want to keep it going. And I'm saying, okay, so I changed the name to our little group of, to the Dragonfly Elders, try to give them an idea. And meanwhile, I contacted the foundation. And apparently I had signed an agreement with them years ago, and they reviewed it and said, oh, wow, well, we need to update this. I said, yeah, I think so. So what I did is I told them that I wanted the monies to go to the Field Naturalist Club, and they told me they would do that once a year. And meanwhile, we had not really been active. We were kind of inactive, and we never requested any money, so it just kept rolling over. But now it's all set up to the benefit of the Field Naturalist Club. you should be getting at least one payment a year, maybe two. And you're free to use that money any way you like. I think it's up to 37,000 now. And Lisa, who runs it, along with Simone, I call them all the time and email them all the time. They let me know when you get some funding, and they let me know when you reinvest it. And I'd like to thank you very much for doing that. I think the first payment was 1,300, and I was talking to Karen, and I said, you know what? They're going to give you funding from now forever. So I said, take a small part of it and donate it back, because you can ask them for funding. There's applications for you to go and ask to get more funding. And of course, since you're investing money with them, they're going to be more than happy to share it with you. Did I answer all the questions, Carl?
Sorry, I had to unmute myself. No, that's great in terms of the history. I hope people kind of followed that and understand that there is this amount of money. And I think Kathy LePan, who is in on the Zoom call here, can probably verify. But I think we're up close to $40,000 that's sitting in the endowment fund, and that's the account, if you will. It's not on our books. It's on the books of the Community Foundation. And we are entitled, if we want, to take the growth from that out every year. And that's where that payment that you talk about, Ian, comes from. And if I recall correctly, going back a few years ago when I was still on the board had basically come to an understanding that using that money and possibly money coming from another pool of funds that was subsequently invested through the Windsor Essex Community Foundation, we would be supporting what is it called? The scholarship, if you will, through the University of Windsor on an annual basis. So I think that's where that stands now, unless I'm out of the loop and I'm not aware of what's going on, which is quite possible. But you know, the whole idea of investing back into the youth and so forth in the area for those people that are in environmental science or something like that made a certain amount of sense to the board when they considered what should be done in part with the money that you had generated and so forth through the startup of the endowment fund, plus these other funds, which amount to, I think, about $30,000 now, that the club itself had invested with them. So these two pools of money are generating funds, which in theory are going to be going to support individuals that are going to school in an area that relates to the environment or science or biology or something like that.
Great idea. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Is there any other questions tonight for Ian? Okay, well, I guess that, oh, Carl, you're going off. No, okay. I guess I have a question, Ian. You had mentioned that, you know, a lot of the volunteers over the years were from the school groups. Do you think that there'd be interest, or how do we gauge or inspire interest in the teaching community to kind of keep engaged in these projects going forward?
I can't remember if I don't think I told you, but I used to work with a teacher, Kim Tomlajenovic, and she's involved in the Environment Committee through the Teachers Federation. And she's going to join us at the cleanup on the 9th of April. And I'll give you more information about her. In fact, I'll probably email her and I'll CC you and make that contact, the first contact. And then you can meet her if you happen to be able to show up at the cleanup, and you can get together and chat there too. I can introduce you. But that is the one thing that I've got in the works, but it's really all hers because she's the one that's going to get the Federation involved. Now, she doesn't have a class. She doesn't teach. Her job is a teacher, but I think she's one of those learning resource teachers that goes to different classrooms. That's the only active connection I have right now.
Okay.
We have contacted, I think Mark might have a connection with St. Mary's School. I may be able to get, my buddy has a daughter who teaches, and see, right now during COVID times, it's really tough to get a class to go out and be involved because it's such a no-no thing. I don't know whether it'll ever, it'll eventually, we'll be able to get back to taking kids out and planting trees, but it'll have to be done on a volunteer basis on the weekend, I think, now at this point in time. So I think we can get our children involved or grandchildren involved that way. There's Gina, I think Gina at IRCA, she'll probably make up a notice for us to be able to send out to our families and all our connections. And hopefully we can get a handful of people to come and help us.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah, that sounds like a good connection.
Can Karen, can I add something to that?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead, Myra.
Actually, the town of Tecumseh is celebrating 100 years. And while I'm at this meeting tonight, before I zoomed this one, it's kind of been in the work. We want to get the 30th anniversary done. So I'm trying to get a tree planting done at Westin. And I brought it up, and sitting next to me was naturally the counselor for the town of Tecumseh. So what Ian talks about, St. Mary's School is in the village of Maidstone. Now, if we go ahead with this, it would be in the fall, and we'll figure out where the trees are going to come. And possibly, like Ian says, if I could contact or somebody could come with me and we go to the school and just mention, or even Facebook. Facebook works wonders, I guess, to let people know that we're doing a planting and a date. If this all comes together, that's part of the problem. We had teachers or parents that were involved at St. Mary's, and like Ian was involved as a teacher, it kind of drops off, whether the parents get too involved with everything else. And but if you want to try to if we do get these trees to get planted at Westin, I'm sure we could try to get a class come out, not so much during the week, but we'll get the word out and get some students to help. And these aren't going to be great big trees. They would be stuff that we could maybe handle. Is that okay, Ian?
Oh, yeah.
I mentioned it.
Yeah. This cleanup of the Little River by the Canadian Tire site, that'll be on, I think I've got the right date, the 9th of April. I might have a wrong one, but you know what? I'll get Gina. I'll CC you, Karen, and I think I've got it in my file somewhere. And we'll get
It's
it.
the 9th.
It's
the 9th, Ian.
Is it? Okay. 10 a.m.
That's the Saturday.
Yeah. Okay. So that would be our first opportunity to have the field naturalist sponsor like a cleanup type of thing.
We did get something from Gina. I guess it was when I read through it, I thought it was a request to just pass along the information that there's going to be a cleanup. So not like when you say sponsor the cleanup, what does that mean to you? Like, I think what we're going to do is advertise it out to all our membership, and hopefully some of our members decide to join.
I would go as a representative of the Field Match Club. I don't have a problem doing that. I already volunteered to kind of be a semi-leader or whatever. And we'll write down that it's the Essex County Nature.
Yeah,
That's your official
I
name,
brought,
right?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think we go by Essex County Nature now, yes. Officially letters patent, we're still the Essex County Field Naturalist Club.
Yeah, okay.
I brought that up tonight to the group that I was speaking to, and that we're part of the Essex County Field Naturalists. So I guess that would be the way we would approach to get kids involved, or like anybody can come to these cleanups, right, Ian? It's just getting the word out.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
All right.
And even the tree planting, if we do go ahead with the tree planting, and then we would, you get Facebook, or you try to get the kids to come on. It would be like a Saturday. And that's when you need, any volunteers, or should I say younger people than Ian and that. Like Ian said, well, if we plant one tree, we're doing good. But if you get the kids and then you get the wood chips and everything, you try to get different IRCA or whatever involved. And that's how I guess it would work. Is that right, Ian?
Yeah.
It's just getting the okay, and now it's kind of, I mentioned it to, and hopefully this will come to fruition in the fall. We can get some trees planted. And I keep saying we. Ian reminds me of this we stuff. And it's very important. The we is a big group now, right, Ian? We are part of the Essex County Field Naturalists and Essex Nature and everything else. So it's very important that we're all we.
Well, one of the projects that comes to mind for me is our Junior Egrets Club was successful receiving a grant from the TD Friends of the Environment Fund this year. And that project is going to run, we're trying to launch it over Earth Day. That's our goal. And then it runs till, I think, October. And it includes a backpack that they take home with activities on different themes related to nature. And it's going to include 6 different trips, but we are keeping them at the Ojibwe Nature Center for ease because it's a younger group. The target audience of our Junior Egrets is 6 to 12. So, there's opportunity. We have one field trip we're calling right now Helping Hands. And we were thinking it would be in the fall, but we hadn't really thought that through yet. But maybe this could be an opportunity to bridge the 2 projects and have them out to help plant trees. I mean, they're going to be pretty young, but what a cool thing to expose them to. I don't know. It's an
It
idea.
doesn't matter. They're never too young. It's
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, because that could, help us do the Helping Hands piece and then link the Junior Egrets into the history at this river corridor. It would be maybe an appropriate way to do that field trip.
Mhm.
Just an idea. I guess we'll have to bring it up at the next Junior Egrets committee and see if that'll play out.
I have another question here, and the question is actually for Tracy. I see Tracy sitting in on the call. Tracy, are you aware of any initiatives in any of the schools out in the county? Because I'm familiar with the fact that some of the schools like Kingsville, I believe, and Leamington have environmental clubs that are involved in different kinds of activities from time to time, or at least used to be before the pandemic. Are you aware of any continued activity out there in the county? Tracy, are you there? Oh, Tracy may not be there. Sorry. Does anybody else know about any kind of activity in any of the high schools or, elementary schools in the county of a similar nature here? In terms of tree planting or anything like that? Okay, well, I thought there might be somebody that would know. I do believe the environmental club, and I don't know if that's the proper name or not, at Leamington is very, very active. And if I recall, going back a couple of years ago, they were possibly involved in doing some of the planting at that site that the Caldwell Nation had rehabilitated on Sturgeon Creek. So I was wondering if they might still be active in doing things like that out in the county. But I guess we have nobody to speak to that. So maybe that's for another day.
I know what you're talking about. When we started the planting at Westin, and I think Ian and myself, we went to St. Mary's School and we spoke, you can correct me if I'm wrong, and we spoke about what we were doing, and we kind of got some parents involved and a couple of teachers. And it's kind of, I don't know, I won't say that the teachers are, you got to get somebody to grab a hold of something like you're talking about and get the parents involved. And it took time right into, we had to meet with people and get them involved. And that's what happened at St. Mary's. We had the principal involved and we had a couple of teachers and the parents, and they planned, we got buses and everything planned. And I guess it takes a teacher or whatever and a parent to kind of get the ball rolling, I guess. Is that kind of what we did, Ian? I kind of trying to remember what we did there.
Yeah, that's what we did. But I like to comment on Carl, what he brought up about the Caldwell First Nations. They cleaned
Yes.
up Point Pelee.
Yeah,
And they invite the public to come and help them do that. So that might be an opportunity for the young naturalists, Karen, that you're talking about. And that would be a beautiful connection to make with the First Nations.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Yeah, I read it somewhere, but I can't remember where, but I know they were doing it, and they invite the public and you go out there and you help them, and they're running it. So it's like you can just go there, which is easier for everybody concerned if you can go to some place where it's already organized.
Mhm.
and Karen, it's, if we do get these trees for Weston, it's just a fact of getting permission and letting them know who's all coming, that kind of thing. And I'm
Right.
sure with the help of the counselor, Tanya, it's just they want to know who's coming on the property, kind of stuff like that. It's not a big deal. It's just, everybody's welcome to help. Like the more we have, the less time it takes, and we get it all done.
Right. Well, keep us posted, Mark, and once
Yeah, I will.
we can let the membership know about that, and maybe if there's interest in the Junior Egret Club, we bring them in. I
Yeah,
think
it's just in the works. Yeah, we were talking about it, and they were talking about the centennial, and I've just kind of brought it up. And part of it's like, who's paying for it and all that stuff. Well, the trees we're planting little trees, so that could all be worked out. It's just,
right.
you can only get so much on your plate, and we want to get the one project done, but I will still pursue that tree thing.
Okay. Wow. So much great work, and there's always more to be done, right?
Mhm.
Forever.
Yeah. Well, it is approaching, well, we're after 9 tonight, so we should probably close up today's meeting.
Wow, it's that late. Woo.
And Ian for coming out tonight and presenting this fascinating history of the work that you've been up to over the years. And thanks again for the endowment fund and all your work setting that up. And I think the club is very grateful and looking forward to kind of working on more environmental issues in the years to come.
Wow, okay.
Yeah. Okay, if there's no more questions tonight, I think we'll wrap up our February speaker series event, and thanks for coming out, everyone.
Yeah, I appreciate it too.
Yeah. All right.
Thank you, everybody. Good night.
Good night.
Night.
Good night, everyone.
Right.
Good night.